formula to use. And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to cover how to do compound interest annually and also semi-annually. Those are the two problems I'm going to do. Okay, so the first thing, when you look at this example right here, you have example one. It says you invested 52,400 at 6% compounded annually for 5 years. What is your total return? And your total return is your balance. That is what you're going to get at the end. When people say, well, I want to borrow some money from a bank or even an individual, they're going to want some money back on their investment. And so that's where this comes in. Okay, so for this, it says you invested 52,400. And remember, we're gonna go ahead and write this formula down at the top here. And then after that, we're gonna plug in these numbers so that we can make it look easy. See here. Okay, so we have our principal, which is right here, right? We have our rate, which is right here, right? And then we want to know right here is the duration, how many years? And yeah, we see here it's 5 years. And so let's go ahead and let's put those, let's write the formula out and let's plug in all of these numbers here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so the first one we have, we're going to have base, or excuse me, the balance equals, and we know that the principal, which is right here, right, is 52,400. And then the rest of our formula has the 1 plus R and the T here. Let's go ahead and plug in those answers. We got the 1. We have plus. The rate is 6%. When you write 6% as a decimal, it is 0.06. And then it says 5 years, so it's to the 5th power, right? And so now all we have to do is go to our calculator, and what we're going to do is we're going to multiply. Well, actually, let me continue. Well, I almost missed one step. B equals 52, 400,000. And then what you want to do is add this 1 to this 0.16. So that's going to be 1.06. And we still keep to the 5th power. So we're going to have to go to our calculator and find out what this is. And all we got to do is multiply it by this number. And we're done. We've got our balance. So let me go ahead and write here B equals. And then I'm going to multiply this, find out what that is, and multiply it by this. And I'll have my final answer to put right down there at the bottom. So let's go ahead and clear this. Okay, so we have 1.06. And remember, to get your exponent, you're going to have to go right here where it says XY. Different calculators have different functions to find that. And then you need to put in what number. So we're talking about 5 years. So we're going to go ahead and put a 5 there. Okay, now we have this number, and we have to multiply that by 52,400, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Times 5, 2, 4, 0, 0. And let's go ahead and write that down. Now, that will be, it's actually $70,123.02, the way we write that out. And I'm going to go ahead and write it down. Should write that answer down. Okay, let's go back over to our other board here. Once we did that multiplication, we got a final answer of. Now, I'm going to show you something that I want you guys to look at. When you get this, some of you are turning in your work like this, and I want you to turn it in correctly. When you're writing out numbers like this, you don't just give me this number. You need to have that comma there. The comma starts after 3 spaces from the decimal point. It doesn't start here. So when we're trying to find out how much money we're dealing with, we're going to start here at the decimal point, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3. So we can see that $70,123.02. And so this would be your final answer. Okay, so if you got that, you're on the right track. Okay, I'm gonna have to actually. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do this next one here, which is you're gonna be borrowing 10,400 at 12.7% compounded semi-annually. You're gonna be doing that for 4 years. So let's go ahead and put 4 years. And so we have our three figures we're looking for. The three things we look for is our principal, which is the 10,400. That's the amount we're borrowing. The rate is going to be at 12.7% compounded semi-annually for 4 years. Okay. And so the first step we want to do is multiply the exponent by two once we figure that out, what the exponent is. We know it's 4 years, so we know it's going to be a 4 here. But if we multiply that 4 times 2, it equals what? Yes, it equals 8. And so that means this is going to be to the 8th. So that's the one change that we do make on this. Now, number 2, it says that we're going to um, divide the rate by 2. Okay. And so the rate is 12.7. Okay, we're going to divide that by 2. So let's go ahead and do that. We have 2 and we have 12.7. We know that 2 goes into 12 6 times. That's 12. It goes into 7 3 times. And that will bring you 6. We have 1 left over, and 2 goes into 10. We know 5 times. And so it's 6.35 is what we're looking at. And so when we write this, we're going to go ahead and write that inside of here. And actually, this is percent. So class, can you tell me how am I going to change that percent to a decimal before I put it in here? So we're going to go ahead and change this 6.35 percent. We're going to go ahead and change that to a decimal. To change it to a decimal, we know we have to go back 2 spaces to the left. So we're going to go 1, 2. And so when we write that out, it's going to be 0.0635. And the way you check your answer is go back 2 spaces or go over 2 spaces, and you'll find yourself in between the 6 and the 3. So you know this is what we're looking at. And so now what we're looking at is we're going to be multiplying. We're going to be adding this just like we did the last one. So we go ahead and we'll bring this down, the 10,400. Okay. And then we're going to have, we have 1 plus 0.0635. So all we got to do is add that 1 to there. If we add that 1 to there, we get 1.0635, and we still have it to the 8th power. And so that means all we have to do is go to our handy dandy calculator, and we have 2 calculations here, these 2 right here, to get to our final answer. So let's go ahead and go to our calculator, and we just have to multiply 0.0635 to the 8th power. We have to find out what that is to the 8th power. Then we're going to multiply by 10,400. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. So let's go ahead and put that in there. We have 1.0635 to the 8th. And then we want to multiply that by the principal times 10,400. And then we'll go ahead and write our number down. We have this 17018.97. So go ahead and write that down before I take it off the screen in front of you. 17018.97. Write those numbers down. 1. Go ahead and write that in black. So it's going to be 17018.97. And then I said that we're gonna start the decimal space, and when we make our comma to find out how much money this is, how many spaces I'm gonna move now to the left to figure that out.
3.
Thank you. 3. 1, 2, 3. And so what I have $17,018.97. And so that'll be your final answer here. So that'll be your total. All right. If you got that, give yourself a round of applause. Great job. Great job. Great job. Great job. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and take this, stop the recording here. Okay, the last one I'm going to do is it's compound interest, but it's going to be compounded quarterly. And we're going to use the same formula. Formula is the balance equals the principal times 1 plus the rate times the to the power of the exponent will be the time, the years. Okay, and so we see here that the investment is for 18,100 at 13.6 compounded quarterly for 7.5 years. Will be worth how much in that time. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go ahead and extract the formula here. B equals P. So we have B equals. We know that P is 18,100 times 1 plus, and before we put the rest of this in here, there's a couple other steps that we need to make before we fill in what goes on in here. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we have 2 steps here. Multiply by quarterly, and that would be 4. Okay, when we did the previous ones, we had semi-annually. That means 2 times a year it's compounded. So that's why we multiplied by 2. But this time we're actually going to be multiplying by 4. And so what we're going to do is go ahead and look at the exponent. The exponent right now is 7.5. That will be right here, 7.5. However, we have to multiply that by 4 since we're going to be compounding it. And if you multiply that correctly, that comes out to 30. Okay. Okay. So that's the first step. So we have a 30 as our new exponent. And so we can rewrite that as B equals 18,100 and then 1 plus to the 30th. Now we start to fill in what goes in here. That's where the second step comes in. We have to divide by the percent and then change that to a decimal. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide this percent by 4. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So we have 4. We have 13.6. We know that 4 goes into 13 3 times. That'll have to be 12. Put our decimal there. And we bring that 1 down and the 6. We know it goes in here 4 times. Okay, so that's 3.4%. However, the last thing I said is you got to change it to a decimal. Then we're gonna go ahead and put that figure right in here. Okay, so let's change this to a decimal. You know, 3.4, to change it to a decimal, we must go to the left 2 spaces. So we'll go 1, 2. That's 0.034. So 0.034. Okay, and so we're almost finished with our problem. Let's write down what we have here. We have B equals 18,100. And 1 plus 0.034 is nothing but 1.034. And that's going to be to the 30th power. And so once we do our multiplication of these 2 numbers right here, 1.034 to the 30th power, then we're going to multiply that by the 1,100, and we should come up with our balance, and that will be our final answer. So let's go ahead and go to our calculator and do that first. Okay, let's go ahead and put our figures in our calculator here. So we're going to go 1.034 to the 30th power. And then we're going to multiply that by 18100. All right, and let's write that number down. It looks like we have 49350.86. Let's go back to our other board. All right, and so what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and write in our answer. We had our answer to be 49350.86. And just like before, I was saying when we're counting money, we want to be able to go ahead and count back 3 spaces from the decimal. 1, 2, 3. Puts it right here. And it's $49,350.86. And so that is the correct answer. And so go ahead and mark that off. And that's the right answer. All right. As long as you do these steps correctly, you can't go wrong. All right, we'll go ahead and save that. All right, I should do a couple here where I want you guys to do them yourself. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Let me pause this real quick. Pause the video here. All right, I'd like you guys to go ahead and pause the video and work this particular challenge out and see if you can get the right answer. All right, let's just see if you did this correctly. So the first thing we want to do in this particular challenge is what I always do is like to label the front to make sure your challenge a whole lot cleaner. Okay, so the principal we know to be 1,200 here on this one, so we go ahead and put 1,200. We know the rate is going to be 5.1%, so we put 5.1%. And this is what I do. I'll just go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and change that to actually I'm going to leave that. I'll leave that by itself. That's fine. And then also the time, we know it's 7.5 years. I'll make that 7.5. I like to keep everything just like money. When you're comparing things, try to keep them alike. Okay, so our next thing we want to do is go ahead and write down our formula. So let's go ahead and bring our formula on down. Our formula we have is we're going to say it is B equals, and we know the principal is going to be 1,200. And then in parentheses, we have 1 plus, and I'm going to leave this open for a minute because remember, we don't know what to put in here yet because we still have to do 2 more steps before we put something inside these parentheses. Make my parentheses a little bit bigger. Okay. All right. So the first step says multiply by, and actually this is from my last problem. This is not quarterly. It says our problem says semi-annually. So that means we're gonna multiply by 2. And then down here, we're going to divide by we're going to divide the percent by 2 as well. So let me write that down there. Divide the rate by 2 and change it to a decimal, obviously. Okay, so let's do those 2 steps. First of all, we're gonna multiply the exponent, that is, by 2. Okay. Right now, our exponent is 7.5 right here, right? That's how many years. We have to multiply that by 2. If we multiply that by 2, it's going to be 15, correct? And so we rewrite this as B equals 1200, 1 plus, and then we know this is going to be 15. Now we just have to fill in what goes here. Okay, and that's our last step. It says divide the rate by 2. So let's go ahead and divide. This is our rate right here. We're going to divide that by 2. So 2, we have 5.1. We know that 2 goes into 5 2 times. Okay, that's 4. We have 1.1. We have the point there. We know that 2 goes into 11 5 times. 10. We have a 1, a 0. We know 2 goes into here 5 times. And so this is going to be a percent here. So we have 2. So what we have is we have 2.55%. Now we have to change this to a decimal before we put it inside this box here. And we know to change it to a decimal, we must take this decimal and we have to go backwards 2 spaces, correct? Yes. Okay, so we're going to go 1, 2. And so what we're going to have here is 0.0255. And to double check your answer, just go to take it to the right 2 spaces, 1, 2, and it should land between the 2 and the 5, which it does. Okay, and so that means we're home free. All we have to do is we're almost home free. We got one more step. B equals 1200 and 1 plus 0.025. We know that's going to be 1.0255 to the 15th power. So now all we have to do is go to our calculator and figure out what this is and then multiply it by the principal, which is 1200. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so let's go ahead and put our figures in this calculator. So we have 1.0255 to the 15th power. And then we have to take that and multiply it by the principal, which is 1200 times 1200 equals, and looks like our answer, double checking, it is totally correct. So let's go ahead and write down those numbers there, and then we'll take it to the other screen and finish it. 1750.71, and I'll put the additional 8. Okay. We said that B is equal to 1750.718. And now remember, it's asking you to round it to the nearest cent. And so when you're rounding to the nearest cent, you're looking at the third digit, after the decimal point here. If it's 5 or higher, then this number right here goes up, which this is higher than 5. It's an 8. So this is going to be 1750.72. And so, and we'll start from the decimal point. And so it's going to be $1,750.72. And so that's going to be the balance. That's how much money he's going to have. This person's going to have after 7.5 years of interest at 5.1% compounded, compounded semi-annually. Okay, so if you got that correct, I'll go ahead and circle the answer so we don't get confused. This is actually the answer right here. $1,750.72. So if you got that, give yourself a round of applause. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and pull out your principal, your rate, and your time. Just get those out in front of you so that you can have something to work with. And so we have our principal, our rate, and our time. We know our principal is 12,900. We know that our rate is 13%. And what I'll do is since this is annually, it's not semi or whatever have you, I'm gonna go ahead and change this. Usually you don't change this. Usually you're gonna be dividing by the exponent, but what we want to do is change this 13% into a decimal since we're going to be operating with that. And so to change that to a decimal, it should be 0.13, right? And then the time we know is 2 years. We'll just put 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and write the formula, and then we're just going to plug in the answers. We have B equals the principal is 12,900. Okay, then we have the parentheses here. We have the 1 plus the rate is we put the decimal for that in there, 0.13. And then the time we know we said was 2 years. We just put 2 here. And so simply all we need to do is just keep our challenge moving. What we're going to do is go ahead and we have B equals 12,900 times, and then 1 plus 0.3 is basically 1.13 down to the second power. And so to solve this particular challenge, all we need to do is go on our calculator, find out what this is, and then multiply it by the 12,900. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so let's go ahead and put those figures in there. We have 1.13 and use our XY here to the second power. And then we're going to multiply that by 12,900. All right. And we should have, all right, so we have 16472.01. Okay, so we go to other screen here, and all we have to do is go ahead and we'll put in our answer. So we said our answer was 16472.01. And remember what I said earlier is that you want to write it like money. Start from the decimal point, and you're going to go this way. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, and basically it's $16,472.01. And that's your answer. If you got that, give yourself a